All right, I believe I'm live. So this is a very impromptu video, and we're discussing Section 8 housing, RVs, homesteads, zero property tax, and alternatives. Many of you across the U.S. are utilizing Section 8 housing or other programs like project-based. You may be living in a subsidized building. You may be using a housing choice voucher. You may even have an emergency housing voucher, or many other types that are issued at the state level. We live in different times, and one thing you can clearly see as the country keeps evolving and making changes is for those that don't have a killer job paying a lot of money, many states are becoming entirely unaffordable to just about everybody but the wealthy. Even I have considered some of the realities of what I'm seeing. With extreme inflation, a housing shortage for low-income individuals, we have to consider all options. And today I want to explore some of those options, including HUD homeownership and other options that might be available that are low cost, or at least something that's within reach. You know, the future, eventually in the future, it's going to be extremely difficult for anybody that doesn't make a great deal of money to even own property or a home, whether you had home ownership or not. And so we need to look at some concepts, because a lot of us, you know, all of us are eventually going to get old, 60, 70, 80, 90, if you make it that long. And we got to look at what's best in terms of housing and the government trap, you know, Section 8 and its vouchers and low-income housing and all the nonsense that goes on and having to live that lifestyle. You know, if you're going to weigh risk against reward, then now will be a time to consider further options. It makes a little difference if you've got kids or family in town. If that's the only thing holding you in the center of hell, maybe now is the time to consider all the risk. So first thing I want to discuss, HUD homeownership was purely an invention by HUD, which is the Urban Development of Housing in Indian Affairs. And while that has worked very well over its generations, that program, little by little, has been dissolved. Since 2000 to now, almost 75% of it's gone. And what's left is only left in highly critical areas. In other words, probably in places you wouldn't want to own a home. Okay? In limited cities, and only a handful of housing authorities in each state offer it. Then you have some might argue NACA. Great. But look, unlike HUD homeownership, you know, HUD homeownership would pay 70% of your mortgage. NACA doesn't pay any of it. They're just a finance option. They're a whole loan solution. And if you don't have great credit, then what they're going to offer you is going to be so low, like $50,000 or $60,000, that you'd have to move yourself into a crack house. Okay. So it's time to think out the box, guys, because even I'm thinking out the box. Look, I'm not going to generate income for the rest of my life either. You know, I'm going to have to retire, and I'm doing so, and I've got 4 cats to care for, and we're always looking at options. So HUD homeownership is a good option now to probably 2030. For those of you that have a credit score better than, I would say, 620, but you really need good interest rates, and we don't have them right now. It's a program that requires nearly a year, mostly because of a lot of foot dragging by the PHA, and there's no guarantees at the end, because PHAs have a vested interest to see you never get a house, because they know they got a 15-year note they got to pay. And home ownership, while it does pay, if you got a 30-year loan, they'll make payments against your mortgage for only half that term. And if you got a 15-year loan, then only half of that term. And then you have a bomb on your hands. You have the house, and then you have no assistance. It's a way of graduating you out of the system. I think that if you're going to graduate yourself out of a system, then you should graduate yourself out on your own terms and look closely at options. A lot of you are living in circumstances and neighborhoods and other places that just are not suitable for the human soul. I want to repeat that. Not suitable for the human soul. And that's because you're just a survivor. Everyday life is just miserable because you're completely dependent on the concrete city and its people that have stores that solicit on pretty much all your income. And so let's explore some other options. It will require you to be brave, and it will require research. And I'm not an expert in all these areas, but I'm going to become one because me and my cats we're taking that adventure, and I'm learning as I go. Also, guys, I want you to share your experiences. But if your only goal in the channel is to bring a negative aspect, truth is good. Okay, the truth is fine. But if your only goal is to come here and comment to bring something negative to the table, then shut your mouth and get out. Unsubscribe, please. Move on. I don't have time for that this morning. All right, so first up, let's talk about homesteads, guys. There are many states that offer property and even an acre of land for as little as $3,000. Okay, not all those offers are great. You could end up in a homestead, and what I mean homestead like 1883. The state offers some land. You need to make sure it's near a highway and reasonably close to some city. Of course, you have the battle of electricity and you have the battle of water. Water can be drilled. And many of these states where the property costs are low, so is the cost to drill. As little as $10 to $15 or even $25 a linear foot. And so a couple of grand, $3,000, you got water. And you never pay the city or the government another nickel for water. Okay? Second to that are homesteads, property tax. Ron DeSantis, I want to bring him up. Okay? A lot of you are going to have a seizure. I don't agree or disagree with Mr. Ron's politics in Florida. Well, what I will say is this. Florida may very well be the first state to eliminate property tax. But let's be clear about something. Property tax is only a big issue across the board when you have a big old property. Okay? Land by itself, there's not much property tax on that. And the further you get away from all these investors and developers that take over your cow pastures and turn them in neighborhoods, the longer this will last for you. And so you're seeing tax rates between, 1% and 5%. And so you're paying rent basically on your property. Now, let's be clear about this. If DeSantis does what he does, it's too bad it has to be in Florida. Florida is already a hellishly expensive place, second to Florida. But in other places in the country, having an RV on a property with drilled water solves a big problem. Okay? So I'm going to hop in the comments here because I know I'm stimulating the minds and a lot of people have a lot to add to this. And like I said, I'm okay with positive and I'm okay with the truth. What I'm not okay with is just going on a tirade. So let's keep it normal. All right. Good morning. Peace. Thank you. Uno numero baby. Yes, you were the first to show up. You were the first kid in kindergarten to get in the lunch line. You got your plate first. Congratulations. You got a special matter. Thanks for coming. Silver Fox. Good morning, Jay. Thank you. Sean. Good morning. Karen knows. Good morning, including my cats. Well, thank you for remembering my cats. At any time in this video, cats could pop in. Okay. Just get ready. Any one of them could pop in. And I'm telling you, they don't give a damn. They crawl through my hair, get on the chair, hop through the lamps. So far, it's quiet. But I'm known for rambling for a minimum of an hour in some videos. And while I ramble and make little sense, we may have a cat entertain us. Shamu 2006, good morning. And Magus Smith, I would rather have a manufactured home with land than a tiny house. They are expensive. Okay, so preference is good. That's why I want to talk about all those preferences, home ownership, land ownership. And when I say homestead, I mean it's land ownership outside the big city. Okay. Being able to have chickens, ducks, even goats, and a garden that can survive even the winter, a greenhouse would allow you guys to cut an immense amount of dependence on the U.S. government. The things that bleed you dry. A lot of you that are retired and seniors that weren't doctors and lawyers and you're not going to get a big check, that can mean the difference between living and surviving. So our goal here is to look at what it means to be, what it means to live, rather than just survive in a big city. Is it worth it so much to be there? And you're at mercy of whatever the prices are going to be, they're going to be. And in horrible times when humans act real badly, like right now, where we're just price gouging the shit out of people, it makes it where you're not even a survivor. You're sitting in the gates of hell for everybody. I mean, everybody's just trying to screw everybody, and it's a sad way of doing business in our country. Of course, to be wealthy, it doesn't matter. You can still go down to Taco Bell and spend $58 on 3 tacos. This is a sad situation for many, says Shamu. Silver Fox, I tried USDA loan. They wanted to lend $110,000 in today's market, Jay. So you end up in a crack house. That's right. Homesteading and buying a $3,000 property, adding solar panels. And today the solar panels are pretty good. 400 watts, $500. If you saved a little every month over a course of a year, you could power your entire 2,500 square property if that's what you needed. I don't recommend you get a big old place. That's back to vanity. You might as well move right back to the city. What you're saying is, I'd like a big house so I can burn all my money up. Even me and the cats would prefer something small, mainly because I'm a terrible cleaner. And I don't want to pay $900 to a little girl with a toy broom and a mop that thinks they somehow deserve to be paid like a dentist. And so having a small property, I mean, it's okay to have, an acre of land, but a place where you don't have to mow it, where you can drill for your own water and never pay for that bill again, and where you can extract electricity through solar panels, which have advanced, 400 watts. You need about 20 of those. And so over time, you'd build up, you'd be able to produce more energy than you would even use. And so you just cut off the electric company and the water company. And even those that live in windy areas, you can have the little fans that blow, windmills, small ones, generate power. The goal here is to eliminate as many possible bills as possible, just short of your phone. Now, most of us can't afford a small satellite, and then also in that homestead, you have animals, which is your grocery store, and you have gardening, and putting up greenhouses for those states that are cold. So that's one option there. And then we talk about tiny homes. Yes, that's a half solution. It doesn't necessarily mean you're leaving the big city. Maybe you're out in the suburbs. So those are for people that want to take on a little less risk. Also those that want to live in a trailer. Other options, travel trailers. Go look, this is the worst year in history for the travel trailer market. If anybody's looked into you type in the words in Google, travel trailer, you can pick up a travel trailer 20 foot long, okay? It connects the back of your SUV or your truck, and it's like walking into a New York apartment. They have to give these damn things away. Okay, yeah, it takes some skill, and you got to read all the manuals and understand how to maintain this thing, but $13,000 to own a home on wheels, that's absurdly cheap. It's the last thing that's cheap on the market. And when we reach a certain point in this country, eventually the RV market will be the last thing that will be pre-built and still inexpensive. But eventually it'll become inexpensive the more people that flood that market. So you got that homestead, you got your garden, you got your goats, you got your chickens popping out eggs every day, tomato plants and all your greens. And while you're waiting for things to work out, you have an RV. You paid $13,000 for, and that's about $1,000 a month, even for those of you that saved 2 or 3 years. Why am I bringing this up? Why would we ever, in a channel that addresses housing and Section 8, bring this up? Because I think it'd be wiser to spend your final days in nature without all the bills, where you could pursue your happiness, your hobbies, without having to deal with the housing authority and its big mouth employees and dealing with the government. Imagine that your only bill would be your cell phone bill. Can anybody even imagine that? And at the end of the year, because you just own an acre and a $13,000 or $10,000. Now, this is if you bought a newer model. You got travel trailers going for $3,000 to $5,000. You're sitting out there in your acreage. Your property tax is at 2%. Okay, so your Your bill for the year is what? $100. So you got your phone bill and you got property tax. You cut a check for $100 and you're done for the year. Okay. Now, of course, there are other things. You got medical costs and all your prescriptions, but look, you got that anyways. We're just taking out some other big chunks. No more $1,000 rents, $2,000 rents. No more paying the water company. I remember we used to buy water for $30 a month. Now it's absurd. People charging $80 for shit that's free about 300 feet below the ground, or maybe much deeper, depending on the state you're in. We're charging for fucking shit that's free. You're paying for fluoride, baby. All right, so moving on from there. Living off the grid means that you're not giving away. Really, what living off the grid means is you're buying property in a rural area and you're not paying anybody. You're not giving your money away. You're not having a giveaway. You're not a pool. And so that may be a good life end stage. It's good for kids too. I'm pretty sure the country's got good school systems for those that are fearful. Tiny homes is a pretty good idea too because it consolidates everything. But look what's happened to the tiny house market. As everybody rushes to that as a new housing solution, now the tiny house market has turned into the same old bullshit as a house. Now you got tiny houses for $200,000. They completely exploited the tiny house market. You have to buy a tiny house from China at this point to even afford the damn things. So they're now making $200,000 sheds you could park your lawnmower in. So I have my grievance with that. Tiny houses and the concept worked out great at first, but now the investors and the people that have and the people that got money, they just found a new way to exploit the living shit out of you. So now they're selling custom models and all kinds of bullshit, and a lot of townships don't even want them. So there went that out the window. There's still options out there if you can find them, but I mean, really. My storage shed, I'm $200,000. What kind of light bulb are we screwing into that one? A gold one? So I'm not trying to beat that up for those of you that enjoy tiny houses or live in parts of the country where it would be feasible to do so. What I'm saying is a lot of the countries is almost an impossibility. And as long as you have the wealthy that are going to be the new manufacturers, the boss man of those tiny houses and the manufacturing of it, the more you guys gobble that up, the higher the prices are going to go. So we'll enter a phase where only the wealthy can live in a tiny home. Same game as everything else. I think the last thing left, even houseboats. When people started doing that game 20 years ago, now you can't even buy a houseboat. People are, I'll park my boat in the dock, I'm good. It worked for a long time. Now the houseboat in the dock, they want $200,000. It defeats the whole damn purpose. Again, the wealthy figured it out. Now they want to be your landlord and make sure you got a note for the rest of your fucking life. So RVs, this is what we still have left. RVs, travel trailers, and for most of you guys, the affordable option is travel trailers. Okay, they make them big, they make them pretty nice, and it's a terrible market for them, and they're really cheap now. Could you ever imagine buying a 20-foot travel trailer? It's got a full-size stove, kitchen, leather sofas in it. You can put 6-8 people, sometimes 10 in there. And they put marble tops and they're giving the damn things away for $13,000 because nobody wants to buy that. So the wealthy are uninterested in their travel trailers now, so they can't give them away. So now they're rock bottom. Now, as soon as they realize there's an interest in low-income people buying them, they'll find a new way to exploit us. So for now, it's a really good idea. So Ron DeSantis and a no property tax. Makes sense. Matter of fact, let me go open a list here to help you guys look at property tax. Because you're paying rent on the land that you've already bought. And I think it's the silliest concept ever. So Florida, we already mentioned that one. Ohio, they've got a grassroots movement to get rid of it there. Pennsylvania, Arkansas, North Dakota. Relief they're offering in Texas, Illinois, Indiana, Montana, Colorado. And look, you can Google the same as me. I'm looking off to the side because I'm not an expert in taxes and economy, okay? All right, moving on back to comments. I'd rather have them. Okay, we've already been through that one. This is a sad situation for many at this point. I tried a USD loan. Yep, did that one. Escrow account went up this year. Good. Thor's Paralegal. Good morning, Jay. Good morning to you. Karen knows. Let's go. My son's mother message retracted. If you're going to talk dirty to me, please call the 1-800 number. I want to charge $5 a minute. I prefer you do it that way than in the channel, okay? Because I can't make money if you're going to talk nasty. Now, that was just a joke, guys. Don't take it personal. Whitley Allison, GG. Good morning. Cats rule and humans are staff. Of course, I've been knowing that for a while. Every time my cats meow around here, the first meow is a request. The second meow is, yo, are you listening? And then it goes on to 50 to 60 meows while I'm in a video, almost to the point that you have an epileptic seizure while I'm doing this, because I'm ready to kill the cat. And I'm not serious about that, of course, but they know exactly how to drive you to the center of madness. They'll continue to meow until you get your ass up and do exactly what they prescribe you do. They can also, these wet muffins can run through thunderstorms, jump in your bed in the middle of the night. It's supposed to keep you warm, but it's nothing like a good, smelly, wet muffin pops in the bed and wraps around your neck. They don't care. You got a problem? I got one cat that has fits when I move around in the bed. He prefers I don't move because I'm messing with the sleep pattern. So it claws me. What kind of shit is that? Now I paid for that mattress. How are you running things? That's my cats. Spoil the beast. All right, moving on down. My son's mother. I buy my solar panels used or new from Satan Solar in Arizona. Well, that's Satin Solar. Okay. You can buy them from the devil. I'm sure he's qualified to sell them as well. I have 430 watts on top of my vehicle that I live in. I pay a little over 100 for so. Yeah. Solar. A lot of you guys are within camping distance of owning solar panels and be able to drill for your own water. I mean, that gets rid of a lifetime note that eats up a vast amount of your money. You add a garden and chickens and other things into your little lot. You don't even have to buy an acre. You're eliminating a vast portion of the money you have. That's a giveaway. All that shit's free. Now, of course, you have to feed animals and water, right? But I mean, look at all the money we just give away at the grocery store. They wake up and decide how much profit they want that day, and you walk in. They call it a sale. We'll mark it up, and then we'll say it's half off, and then we'll rip you off. And then we're going to look you straight in the eye while we enjoy screwing you. You know, that's the game. Everywhere we go now. You know, I've seen J.C. Penney's is real good about that. The new one, now they've been bought up by investors. They will mark up things where it's nonsense. You'll see 4 towels for sale at $89, and then they'll mark it down to $40 and say you're getting 50% off of something that's probably $10. So people, you know, you're getting ripped off, right? You absolutely know it, and you know the sale's a sham. But what else can we do, right? Thor's Paralegal, 24 Jayco trailer. And I like Jayco. I got to tell you, I like Jayco, and there's another one I can't think of the name. It's 18,000 new luxurious. Look, they got travel trailers. I swear to God, they've got bay windows on this. You could be living in Idaho in the valley with a mountain, okay, out your window, snow-capped, with 300-foot evergreens growing on your lawn, okay? Or you can look at Bob Turd Tricks and Sally Smoke Crack right down the street and keep on living in project-based housing, okay? What's your option there? You can not pay rent there, or you can give it all away, and then you can binge watch crackheads and hookers all day. As an extreme example, I know that's not everybody's life, but look, that RV note, I'm the landlord. I pay myself. Of course, the RV needs power. You need solar panels if you don't want to pay the man. You want water. You don't want to go down to Winn-Dixie. You don't want to go to HEB. You don't want to go down to Kroger's or whatever your grocery store is. Drill oil. Stop paying. Cut it off. And for those of you that don't use internet, just don't use it. That'll cut off all the rest. What's left? Your prescription. Now, if you got arthritis, you got a glass eyeball, a wooden leg, don't let that stop you. You can still feed chickens. Just do it in a wheelchair. Now, I know I sounded cynical when I said we all got to do what we got to do, right? When I get old, I don't have any kids. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to have to roll my 98-year-old ass out there, right? in my wheelchair and feed the chicken. You do what you got to do, baby. That's what makes us American. We can survive anything. Bomb goes off, you shake the radiation off, and you keep going. All right. So, anyways, Ishamo 2006. My cats will start fighting if I ignore them while I'm doing the live video. Not mine. I just had one roll through here. I can't wait till my pops goes that door. It's about 5 to 6 feet away. He'll start yodeling, and he'll increase the intensity and pitch until I absolutely have a nervous breakdown in here. You'll see me act in in ways you've never imagined. It'll look like a freak out because I get tired of that. He knows the button to push. They all do. I got one cat to master of guilt trips. She'll act like she's dying on the bed if I don't pet her enough. I mean, I got to brush her ass every day. If I don't, I get this cockamamie, squirrely eye she's got. Looks at me like I've abused her somehow. And she'll continue to do that and give me the cold shoulder. So we have nothing but games in the house. My cats are causing my mental health crisis almost. But I love them. It's a lot like my clients sometimes, the people in our office. They want to help, but they act like my cats. Rude, condescending. You know, they want to run things, but yet they don't know how to even get themselves under a roof. All right, moving on. Silver Fox. I have a 21-foot trailer equipped. I wish it was 40-foot. It's just me. Well, look, if I got a 20-foot, it's all I can pull. The truck I've got, if I went and bought a $3,000 acre and I was able to get at least a gravel driveway down and get that travel trailer, I would probably trade it out and get the biggest one I could find. This travel trailer lasts for quite a while, especially if you can put an additional roof on top of them, you know. And that's it. No more rent. That ended rent altogether. There's no more rent to pay. The man is gone. Drill the well, there goes the water company. As soon as the solar goes up on that roof, all the way across both sides of the pitch of the roof, bye-bye electric company. No more bills from them. But solar don't last forever, so you got to keep things up. Guard goes down. Well, there goes the grocery store. I no longer need to go to the plant section. But where most of you guys are going to struggle is anytime you got to slaughter the chicken, the goat, or the cow. I don't recommend you go out there and start cows, okay? That's a big job. Maybe start with goats and deers, things like that. Bonita Camel, love this. Hey, I'm fixing to do it. As soon as I'm done selling all this stuff off, I would rather die at the foot of a mountain in absolute beauty than to die in the city of Houston choking on smog and bullshit where people shoot you in the traffic. I'd rather die not owing anybody anything, and then I'd will away what's left, whatever I couldn't sell at the very end stage, probably to a cat rescue. Damned if I let the city or government have another fucking nickel. They've proven this. They can't even keep us out of a government shutdown. Why would I just have a giveaway? No, all things will be willed to a pet rescue. Okay, one that's legit. That's where exactly everything that I own goes. Every morsel, every lamp, every spoon and fork. Not a single penny will ever be given to the government. Give a damn about the government. All right, Karen knows. She's laughing. Sandy, good morning. Another retraction. You're talking dirty, I tell you. 1-800-TALK-TO-Jay. It's $5 a minute. You tell me whatever you want. I've heard lots worse anyway through my own clients through the office. So you'd have to come up with something real dirty before you'd pique my interest. Thor's Paralegal laughing. Kayla, so you're saying solar panels on a travel trailer? Well, travel trailers don't have the best roofs, okay? They easily puncture and all that. What I'm saying is if you can get a couple of posts, like 4x4s that are really tall, 3 foot in the ground, pack it with gravel, a little bit of concrete, go up, build a roof, and put 10. And on that 10, make sure you're pointing south, and then put your panels up there, and make sure you have a nice ladder built where you can get up there. And I would have, if you're in a snowy area, a pitch of about 60%, so the snow falls off, easy for you to maintain. Now, if you're disabled, you'd want your solar at ground level, okay? But you need to make sure there's lots cleared out on your property. That way, all you've got to do is go out there, connect it up to the back of your car or truck, and you can move a little movable trailer with your solar panels, according to the day and times. Where solar really gets expensive is when you get tied into buying Tesla batteries and all that, okay? So you want to produce enough for your house, but you don't want to get in the industry of selling money back to the energy company. Not that that's even an option. This is all about taking exactly what you need from nature, okay? What's offered to us for free. These things have been available since the beginning of time. Well, at least since we've been modernized. But none of us really are taking advantage of that. We like paying the water. We like having a giveaway. You call the water, excuse me, could you rob me of some money, please? I like to cut a check and see if I can suffer some more. Hello, energy company, could you extort me for half of my Social Security check today? It would give me great pleasure to get screwed this month. And I was hoping that you could get at least $90,000 worth of electric out of me before I die. Please suck every fucking penny out of my life. Hello, grocery store. I would love to pay $99 for a dozen of eggs when a fucking chicken can produce that without ever seeing a refrigerator. Can produce it daily. A couple chickens that eat corn. A bag of corn. We really, we're like in a zoo with the government. We're the pets. We're pets in a zoo. We pay for our own imprisonment. We'll have to claim this is. We know about Section 9, right? 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison for bad Section 8 housing authorities. And we have Section 10. That's when we live in the big city and even the suburbs, and we become pets. We're government pets. We're fed and watered, and we pay for the privilege for that green lawn. And then we live in a neighborhood with a HOA, so we have a person with a whip. It's like a plantation. You bought yourself a house on a plantation where they suck you dry. Won't be long before they charge for a mailbox. Oh, you want mail today, Sally? Well, that'll be $3 in your mailbox. So, yeah, we're in a petting zoo in the city. And we like to give all our money away. You play scratch-offs? Look, there's a better way to gamble with your money. How about you don't pay anybody anything? How about you buy something one time, maybe have to replace it every 10 or 20 years? How about never paying rent again? How about paying property tax? You pull out a crisp $100, okay? You go sell chicken eggs right down the road, get you $100, pay your property tax. How about that? Or you can keep living in the city. There's always good hooker watching out the window, drug dealer watching. You get you a nice pair of binoculars, and you can watch people get robbed, stabbed, shot, hooking, cocaine smoking, and that'll be your new hobby. That's the hobby of the city dwellers. Watching hookers walk down the street, ain't got but one flip-flop on. She's shaking and jiggling. She done had a little too much meth that day. You know, she's contorting in your front lawn, the one that you're paying rent on. Nobody wants a circus trick in their lawn. In the country, we don't have that problem. The deers don't smoke crack. The chickens don't turn tricks. Okay? It's just good, honest living. You don't have to deal with the sassy mouth of a housing authority. I'm going to dictate how shit's going to go. And the minute you pop your lips, I'm going to put your ass out and take your voucher. So we love indenturement. We love the city zoo, being a pet, and then we paid rent on that. Got to stop. This isn't the dream of our ancestors. People had freedom up to the early 1900s. Now we're in a trap. We're in a zoo. It's a fucking zoo. And most of you are dying. You're big as a house. You're swelling up from Cheetos. Look at my fat ass. I wouldn't have this problem if I was in the country because I had to go out and do everything. You see? Next thing you know, you got an ambulance. They're having to cut the wall down. You done fucking ate about 80 pounds of Cheetos, and now they're going to roll your fat ass out the trailer. You done killed yourself. Your toes turn black. You got triple diabetes. Why? Because you've been eating a Jack in a Box. There isn't a fucking chicken to be found in a mile. Who wants to go out that way? Do you want that EMS to bring a forklift to bring your ass out the trailer? Think about the country, guys. I'm telling you. The rabbits won't steal. They won't break in your home and steal and rape and pillage you. Yeah, there are problems out in the country. We got wolves and coyotes. I don't recommend you go out there and be a Sally about that. Don't go feed the wolf. and then come back crying when they chewed your fingers off. So, get you a little shotgun. Make sure they know who's running fucking business. You come on my acre, bitch, I'll shoot you in the eye. Be nice to the wildlife except for the predators, okay? Bears, wolves, coyotes, okay? I don't want you to get turned out on your acre, okay? Now, if you're struggling for drugs and alcohol and prostitution, please don't go hooking in the forest. The deer ain't going to pay you anything, okay? Get back to the comments here. Tay, laughing. Kara, 100%. SMO, lots of laughs and smiles. Thank you. Comedian at best, but the truth. Yes, of course. Said old government zoo, baby. Government zoo. Now, I know some of you getting ideas about growing a little bit of that green bean out there in the garden. Please don't move out to the country so you have the FBI tear your trailer door down because you got a little hash in the garden. Okay, don't go out there and grow no fucking weed. Get real with yourself. Okay, don't go out in the country, get yourself arrested. You want to smoke a little grass out there, go for it. Okay, but look, don't put yourself in a jam. There's lots of things in the country. Keep it simple, keep it clean. Okay, nobody growing no poppy seeds out there. We don't need no scientists in the forest. All right, moving on down. Dawn, I can listen to you all day. Well, thank you, Dawn. I have to hear my bullshit all day long. And then I get upset when y'all call me on it. So you see, it's a complicated relationship. It's like a never-ending divorce, right? All right, moving on. Great assessment, Jay. Well, thank you. Most of the things I talk about are pure logic. I think about these things and what we can do to save a little money. My grandmother was a German. So let's talk about Germans real quick. Oh, Lord, here we go. Now, when you grow up in an immigrant family, you got a French bastard and a German grandmother, right? My grandfather was not a nice man. I never did care for that bastard. He is who he is. No disrespect intended, but really. But my grandmother, man, things were tough, man. She would buy, you remember the little gum packs, big red gum packs you'd get back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? We go to the movie theater. First thing that German woman would do, she was frugal, and I learned that from her. She'd take us down to the movie theater, but before she did that, she always did something I didn't catch on to as a young child. She'd pop all the popcorn, and she'd get her biggest German bag, and you know where she'd bring us? To the $5 movie, and back then it was like $2. So you could smell she had double bubble popcorn in there in that big-ass bag. She'd take us to the candy store. So we bought about $98 in candy and popcorn. You can smell the butter steam rolling off this shit, and we're walking in and cheating that theater. Okay? That's how we rolled in the family. We weren't going to pay for no $3 M&Ms. No, Grandma would. She'd fry a steak. We'd have all the food was already provided in her giant bag. And then, of course, what you going to tell the old lady? You look like an asshole and tell her, hey, I know you popped some popcorn in that bag, bitch. There's going to be a shakedown in here. You wasn't shaking her down. She rolled proudly in there with all her ill-gotten goods. And we ate popcorn. We'd have Subway sandwich. She'd even sometimes go get a Whopper. Now, we're in there opening Whopper wrappers. Now, they don't serve no Whoppers in the damn theater. But that was Grandma. And then, of course, she'd show us how frugal she was. She'd get them little things. And this used to piss me off as a kid. She'd tear the damn gum in half. She'd give half to me and then half to my cousin. So we only ever got a half a stick of gum around there. Pain in my ass. Caught myself doing that. When I got in my 30s, I'd buy that gum and then, without even thinking, tearing it in half like we're having to share again. Another fond memory was her. She froze every cake we ever baked. I don't understand why we kept freezing cakes. She's gone now, but I love to ask her, why the fuck do we freeze everything that's baked? Nobody else does this. So I guess that was a catch, having a German grandmother. She was frugal. You only got half a stick of gum, if you're lucky. And we provide our own food. Always. Ain't nobody, but you want to get your ass tore up with a switch, you go down there and ask for a Coke at the vendor in the theater. There wasn't going to be no $5 Coke. You go cup your hands at the water fountain, or you get switched. Nobody buys no bullshit at the theater. You start crying about them M&Ms behind that glass window, your ass was grass. Grandma provided everything in the big bag. She wasn't a shoplifter, but she came prepared. Sometimes I wonder if she had a picnic fucking table in that bag. You know, we spent a lot of time there. It was free entertainment. Where could the little bastard run? There's only one door in and out. So they drop you off at the theater, right? With a bag of goodies. All right, guys, moving on down. Oregon Awakened 2013. I wonder if I can jump out of my voucher right now. Well, I didn't know you could jump inside of one. But typically when people jump out of their voucher, if I understand what you're communicating here, jumping out would be a lot like getting evicted because the voucher ain't paying for nothing. So, yeah, you can get jumped out that voucher. They will gladly terminate your voucher, and then your ass will be on the sidewalk with one flip-flop. That's how that works out. But if you want to get out, just violate the rules. All right, moving back. I meant that kindly, and it's hard for me. I can't always be kind. Great movie story. It is, isn't it? I've done that. Amen there, Maggie Smith. Then you know. You from the same school of hard knocks. Anybody here from the hard school of knocks? Let me know about Grandma bringing all that food in that theater. And she said she was Christian. I questioned that. Okay, that bag could hold at least 3 dead bodies. All right. So, Oregon Awakened. Hey, try 1 square toilet paper from Grandma. God, your grandmother's an asshole. 1 square, baby. Lord, we better hope it's double ply. Hope Grandma didn't buy that toilet paper at the dollar store. It'll evaporate before you swing that tissue from one end of your ass to the next. Oregon Awakened, laughing out loud. Tay, straight to the chaser. Exactly. We're here to discuss housing, but now we're talking about Grandma bringing food in, pets flying through my hair. It's always a little bit of entertainment in this channel. And not to mention the hookers with 1 flip-flop. I've discussed that widely. It's a very important issue. Anytime you spot a hooker with 1 flip-flop, you've got problems in your neighborhood. Moving on. Y'all got me about to laugh at some of the crazy shit I say. But I might be this way. At least I try to get my deposit back. They don't. So you're coming in this live chat about housing, and we're discussing you getting a deposit back on your voucher. I'm concerned there may be a mental health crisis here. Okay. If you somehow fundamentally believe that you put a deposit on Section 8, then several things are going on. The scammer's got a hold of you. He's already got the trash bag over your head and zip tied it. Okay. Now, if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying here, that's fine. Explain a bit further. I won't see you pass out with a Winn-Dixie trash bag from the grocery store over your head. And times are tough. You may have to do it with a scented trash bag. You know what I'm saying? Things aren't cheap. You can't afford trash bags either. I've been this way, too comfortable anyway, so I like to live better when I'm not comfortable. You know, when I was little, Mama used to tell us during those thunderstorms in the trailer park, she'd go tell me to catch a little lightning. She'd hand me a golf club. I thought she just wanted me to have fun as a kid. I didn't know she wanted me to get struck by lightning. I'm very disappointed in that. Normally, when Cajuns kill each other, we do it over other things like drugs and alcohol. But Mom always did have a wicked stretch to her. So I thought I'd add that in there. Sometimes you recall a little bit of childhood. Some things your parents do for you aren't always good, you know, and you don't realize they were trying to kill you till later. All right, Sandy, do us old poor people have fun longer at 62 plus housing? I don't have kids on my own, and I'm a bit worried. Look, you know what, Sandy, I'm right behind you, girl. I'm right behind you in about 8 years, okay? I'll be 60. Look, if it's God's will for you to die, you're going to do it. You can die in a homestead with drilled water and solar panels and no bills, or you can die in the city, get hit by the drug dealer, you know? There's lots of ways to die. There's no guarantees in this. So my philosophy and what I'd like to say to most of you is, if you're considering housing and you're scary and can't think you can go out there and do a homestead and own a property, raise a chicken, draw water out the well. What other options are there really? Life's already tough. We can go at any time. I could worry about all the shit that could go wrong for me and my poor cats getting a travel trailer and moving across country or even doing a homestead. But I can also sit here and I can worry myself to death sitting in this house. And again, then you got EMS there. They're going to cut the wall down. They're going to get a forklift and they're going to roll me out of here 900 pounds because I don't like being in this situation. So risk versus reward, guys. You've got to, it's hellish no matter how you do it. So you got to pick your battles with this stuff. If an acre lands $3,000 and that's what it takes to get you out in the nature and do a little bit of time, then go do that. It's a hell of a lot better than spending the rest of your life indentured to a landlord. Okay? Paying the electric company, paying the energy company, your grocery stores, your garden. I can't express that. Everything in life's a subscription. You have to pay a monthly note on. Gardening is not usually one of those things. Owning some chickens is not a subscription, outside of its food. Water coming out 300 foot out of a well in your property is not a subscription. That water remains free to you. Okay? We got to think. The world is as the world progresses, the differences in the haves and have-nots are going to become greater. And so we need independence and get away from things that are going to cost us money every month. We've got to learn to go from being a survivor to living. Now, I don't want to be a survivor. I don't mind having to survive for a couple of years while I build a homestead, a small one, modest. That's fine. That's working towards a goal. The goal that I'm talking about today is looking at making the first moves to do that. Vouchers and housing are not the only options. They're a mid-range option. We need self-sufficiency. And I don't mean Section 8 self-sufficiency. I'm pushing this hard because there'll reach a time in a day when this will no longer be an option for many of you. An RV, a travel trailer, an inexpensive travel trailer, an acre of land would do a lot for you. And yeah, you can tell me about your bad knees, your bad back. Shit, everybody's got problems. You do what you have to do. There's a trade for every solution. So you have to pick your battles carefully. All right, moving on. Barry Jones, that sounds like me. I do the same thing when the movie's freezing. Gigi, yep, got to take care of your kids and the movies too. That's right. Well, nobody willfully wants to be screwed by the theater. We already know that the minute you walk in those doors, you're getting robbed. Did you think that crispy 60-degree air conditioning blowing on your ass, did you think that was free when you walked in the theater? It's $20 so it's what, $20, maybe $30 to walk in the door. Okay. And then the food is going to be outrageous. A box of M&Ms, $10. Look, I went in the theater 3 to 4 years ago, and I brought 3 other individuals with me. I walked out with a $197 bill for fucking popcorn, buttered popcorn, and 5 beverages. $197. So that let me know that only the independently wealthy are permitted to watch a movie. The rest of us will need to work that labor off. So behind the theater will be a whole squad of people all chained together, growing beans and popcorn for the theater, because it's another way to go and fucking indenture your ass. You walk in the double door, and the minute that fresh, cool air hits your face, you've been leveraged. You're there for your indenturement. You're going to sign up to pay for $197 of absolute bullshit that costs them $1. I understand the theater's got to operate, but if the theater can't afford to operate and it has to price, it's the original price gouger. It is the OG price gouger of the century. It should say movie highway robbery. If it costs that much, then it means they don't really have a very good business. Okay, popcorn don't cost shit. Okay, I'll pop some. That's what my grandmother. She knew better. You ain't robbing no German people. Okay, same for the French. I'm pretty sure my Creoles out there tell you the same damn thing. So yeah, you open a theater in Louisiana, well, you're just screwed. You're not gonna sell one fucking piece of popcorn in that theater. People ain't gonna put up with that. People go to the theater to get away from their problems, not create something bigger for their. And that's why almost all the theaters around the city of Houston have failed. Ain't nobody trying to be robbed. You can already buy a 100-inch TV. Why would I need to go and give my money away that way? All right, anyway, see, y'all get me. I'm getting twisted up here. Oregon Awakening. Oh, I think I got blocked. You didn't get blocked. I just read your comment. Look, if you get blocked in my channel, I usually start mouthing off in here pretty badly. I identify you, expose you, and then you'll see my mouth start to move around as I'm trying to kill your conversation. You're good. The Wondering, well, I can't even say it. We'll call you The Wondering. I'm considering going to Baja and buying a piece of land to plunk an RV trailer. I have $25,000 to $3,000. As a Mexican American citizen, there you go, legal citizen. And I can plus, I'm only about 2 hours from India. I bet the smartest idea. You own the land. You put an RV trailer. Now, an RV is not a home. So they can only hit you for the taxes for the land, right? And so what are you in for? A couple $100? That's it. That's your rent for the year. We all can learn a lesson from that. Same thing we're talking about today. I'd rather live in a travel trailer. And then what I'll do is I'll go down to the bank. I'll pull out $1,200 and then I'll sprinkle it. I'll do this. I'll be the landlord for myself. I'll roll around in that filthy cash because I'm no longer giving away. I don't live in the city zoo anymore. When I go out to my garden and tomatoes, pickles, and everything else growing out there, I know pickles don't grow. Cucumbers. I'm gonna go back to the bank, get me another $50 bill, and I'm gonna do this: roll around my dirty cash right in the dirt, in the mud, like a little pig squealing. Why? Because I ain't gonna pay the grocery store. Yeah, chickens need to be fed. You can roll your wheelchair, even if it only has one wheel. You can roll it out there. The chickens will take the corn any way you give it. Even if you're stuck in a trailer, you're 489 pounds. You crack the window, you throw the corn out the window. Congratulations. You no longer have been indentured to the grocery store. Kroger ain't getting a fucking dime out you. Okay? I know some of y'all going, oh, well, I'm in the wheelchair, but I've got a leg missing, one glass eyeball. My hearing went about 80 years ago. Chickens don't need to talk to you. They don't need to hear you. You roll, and even if you get 900 pounds, you roll the window down on your trailer. You keep rolling like an 80s. You roll the window down. You throw that corn out there. Chickens are fine. Okay? And then you maybe don't feed them per day. When you need a chicken to eat, you don't feed them per day. Then you throw one corn at a time at the front door. Chicken comes in. And next thing you know, squat. You put them on the frying pan. There you go. Kroger didn't get a dime. There was no sales tax either. You ever seen a chicken or a deer stop? You shoot it. You shoot the chicken, or maybe you shoot the deer, and the deer goes, excuse me, and then he walks over to the tree, and he pulls out the cash register. Well, the state of California needs 85%, so I'm going to lay here dead until you come up with 85%, and we can only do exact change here. So if you'd like, you can run your credit card through the crack of my ass and pay your tax. Okay, run it. The deer says run it. You don't eat. That's an instrument. So the deer ain't going to want to collect no tax. Now, if you want to self-report, do smoke signals, start a fire, smoke signals to the government. Excuse me, I didn't pay tax on the deer I shot. Logic, guys. All right, I'm marking. Oh, we're expecting the big tsunami tonight, and I'm going to run right to the wave. Well, that's good. That means you can have a seafood dinner. You'll call it surf and turf. As you drowned in that wave, let us know if you had a lobster to go. So please don't do that, okay? Karen knows. That's right. Shake it up a little bit. Mary Jones, you freeze the cake so you won't go bad. Yeah. My other grandmother, which is French, she froze everything too. She was a big canner. She canned everything. We canned tomatoes. We canned the shit out of everything. We kept the Ball company, the Ball jars. We kept that company in business. She was still canning like it was 1923. And that was when she was born in the 1920s. And so as a little girl, that was a necessity of the time because refrigeration and air conditioning did not even exist then. You ever wonder why you see these old movies and why these houses down south have porches? Because ain't nobody going to be sitting in the house when it's 110 degrees with humidity, okay? That's why most southern homes back in the day had porches. And for those of you that grew up down south in the school system, you ever seen the schools when you walk in there and they got a door and above it, they got like a window you can kind of crack sideways? Well, the old schools didn't have air conditioning. So they cracked them windows sideways above the door, let the heat out. Okay? And if you was real deep south, they still had schools that had colored water fountains. You always knew the white folks had the water fountain that was a new one that was air conditioned, and you could turn the silver one on the floor, the big tall one. And then they'd have the white bowl with the silver handle. You could turn it. Unfortunately, I still saw that exist. It was by incident. It was accidental, but it was in Livingston Parish, Louisiana. They had simply painted over the words colored. Can you believe that shit still existed all the way in the 80s? It was absolute fucking disgrace to everybody to have something like that exist in the schools. I hope somebody sued their ass for that. Nobody is a second party to anybody. Whether we came out the trees, came out the ocean, or God put us here, your color don't make you any different. We're all just humans, right? You stand out in the sun long enough, you can be a lot of different colors. I've been so tan, you'd have thought I was in a frying pan. Never lay out when I was young and never lay out in the sun for hours without any protection. I wasn't the brightest cookie when I was young. All right, moving on from there. Grow food, not lawns, exactly. You got neighborhoods now with HOAs. They go out there and inspect the greenness of your lawn. Now, damned if you're going to tell me you're going to roll your ass up in your Miata, park in front of my home, and tell me how the fuck I'm going to mow my grass or even what color it is. You get a shotgun blast. I'm not putting up with that shit. So not only are you indentured in the government zoo, but you're a house pet to the local. If you're not being pillaged by the city and the government, then you got local nuts doing it to you. I don't do HOAs. I don't want to have to burn their building down. I don't want to have to slap a grown man in my front lawn for telling me about the color of my grass. You're not going to pop your lips. You're not going to leave notes. None of that. We ain't doing that. You take them notes and throw them in a dumpster. These folks put up a lot of shit. So now we're controlling people. You see, this is the world we live in. I'm talking about how much effort could we take, each of us, to sit down today and consider disconnecting the government umbilical cord revolving around housing, utilities, water, and food. You can get your costs down to about 5%. Now, you talk about a couple of years of hell, there's going to be trouble and things ain't going to go right. You're not an expert at solar panels. Ain't nobody got $3,000 sitting in their sock to put in a water well. But these are things you build up to, so you don't spend the rest of your life having a giveaway. That's exactly what I and my household are achieving. I spent 26 years in the industry assisting people with Section 8 housing subsidies. I know. Even the wealthy understand this concept. A lot of the wealthy put up solar lights. They got all the money in the world. But even they are smart enough to know they don't want to be foolish. You got a lot of wealthy people on water wells. Now they can easily buy all the water on the planet, but yet they do that. It says a lot. It's those that are low income. I'm trying to convince you guys to create some independence for yourself. Even if you can't do the whole package, working towards it. There are at least 15 states you can buy land for thousands. Even if you had to save it at $10, $20 at a time per week, you could achieve some of those goals within a couple of years. Or you can continue to pay the man. You know? We've got to get away from this. The real reason I bring this video and the subject matter up is, for many of you, one government shutdown, they don't want to pay for that voucher. One government shutdown don't want to pay a food stamp card we're depending on things that we don't even need to depend on. We need to look at making an immediate exit to cut all these costs, to cut the government sham, okay? So I'm not against government, okay? Just to be clear, I'm not an extremist. I'm not a government hugger, but I'm against foolishness. If you've got very little, then we need to explore all the ways that we can get as much money back, keep as much of our money as we can, and survive a little bit longer in peace without people telling you what the fuck to do in your own home and in your own lawn. And you leave a grocery store pleased that you got ripped off. We live in a delusional world. We appreciate the landlord robbing us. We appreciate the grocery stores running a sham sale, 50% off of a 900% markup. And we're so proud of our delusion as we walk out of there. We're disconnected from reality. People in the country don't have that disconnection. That's why people in the country, when you meet them, you know why they're so nice? Because they are not getting raped by the government. Okay, yeah, there are tough times out there. You got to work. You got to work to have, right? It's on your own steam. Watching a father that was a paraplegic work almost 26 years for DOT and the government with only 2 working fingers proved that every story about back breaks, wooden legs and glass eyes, schizophrenia. Look, even somebody schizophrenic can feed a chicken. Okay? Yeah, you're bipolar. Well, that's fine. Be bipolar on the farm. You can have all the breakdowns you want. The deers don't give a shit. You can run slap ass naked through your lawn, and your bipolar won't fuck with anybody. ADD, that's fine. It means you're going to get more work done on that farm. In fact, the more freakouts you have, the better that farm's going to run. I encourage you, please. Disabled, well, look, put mud tires on the wheelchair. Get you a winch, pull your ass out there. Chicken needs feeding. It needs you. You need it. What you don't need is to pay for it. Look, even if you're big, you mush your fat ass in that little Miata and you roll down the feed store. If you don't want to do that, Amazon will send the corn to your door. But you don't mind going down through Popeyes and KFC and getting robbed, do you? Oh, I just went to Popeyes. I bought a family meal for $59.95. How about you wring the chicken's neck for a penny? You add a dash of light oil to it, pan fried. You went from $59.99 to less than $1. So tell me about the delusions we're having as an American. You want the American dream. You're not going to find it in the city. You're not going to find it in the suburbs. You're going to find it in the country. Well, people are honest. They tell you right to your face what they think of you out there. They're wholesome. They're usually pleasant, except for when you get extreme places. Don't buy no land in those Ozarks, okay? But they're genuine. If they think you're an asshole, they'll tell you that. Hey, man, you know what? You don't fit in our community. Your mouth's too big. You're bringing that big city stank out here, and nobody wants to put up with your bullshit. People out here, Christian, they're trying to live their life. They don't want none of your action. So, yep, you got to abide by the country rules because you're dealing with people you shouldn't be taking advantage of to start with. You make friends with your neighbors because they're genuine. They're not going to cut your back like in the city where you make friends with your neighbor, and the minute you leave the door and the door slams, they slam a knife in your back and talk shit about you. Okay? Country's a big difference for your mental health. So I'm advocating for this for you guys. You know, what else you got to lose? If you're going to be low income the rest of your life, then you can be rather wealthy on your own property in the country, and you won't be low income anymore. You'll be the richest man in America because you're going to get something that city people never get. The suburb people are never going to get. The peace and enjoyment of your life. And you're not going to be raped and pillaged of every nickel you've got till the day you die. And you can be buried right where you left off. The rabbits, the deer, the coyote, they're not going to talk behind your back. They'll steal from you if you don't put up a little bit of gardening fence. But that's okay You need to have a hobby, right? Its job there is to get from you, and your job is to get from them. It's 50-50, baby. Whoever's got the gun wins. You know, I got nothing against rabbits. It breaks my heart, and you ain't killing any animal. But look, I'm the only apex predator on my property. If the wolf comes, he gets, it's going to be a pot shot. I got chickens and cats to defend. Quickest way to die on my property is try to go after my cat. I like small cats. I don't have time to pet the wolf. Okay, me and the wolf, I'm not letting the wolf sleep in my bed. I'm not going to have my face bit up. They just find a little nub. Oh, well, that went Jay. He thought he could be an animal lover. He decided to have a pet wolf, and the motherfucker tore his face off. There's Faceless Bob. He's still gardening, but half his brain's been minced. Understand what you're getting into. You don't want to be dinner belting a wolf. All right, moving on from there. Karen knows, Jay respect, Taylor Tate. Love hearing this from you. Someone other than my brother who's in my ear about this all the time. Good stuff. It's good to bring good humor, new concepts, and to explore ideas. There's a way out of your misery. There's a way out of the city jungle. There's a way to get your money back. But with all good things, it requires work. And self-sacrifice. If you want to wean yourself off of being in the city zoo and being controlled and giving all your money away and then dying desperate, dying as an old lady with a plastic cup and just one slipper sewn together, then consider options before you get there. And it ain't too late. People, look, my grandfather, he passed at 95. He still rode that tractor all the way to 94. Don't kid me about this stuff. Came from a different generation. Today, we want to be paid big dollars for work. That was just called ethic back in the day. It means it was understood. That was normal life, that we had to get out and move our ass. Now, you ask people to work, you hired a maid to come to your house. If she breaks a sweat, she's going to need $400 an hour. She comes in with Gucci spray. I had a guy show up the other day and said to help me with the lawn care stuff. Do you know that little fucker showed up in dress shoes? I put his ass right out my lawn. I don't have delusional children coming to my house. And he just seemed confused at the concept of work. He'll be one of them people that'll be in the city zoo. Okay? Come jiggling along in his dress shoes and his little bouncy hair. And I thought, look at this crazy bastard. He done rolled out here in the country with me. And he wore his Sunday shoes. Like he's sending me a message. Hey, I need money, but I ain't doing shit for it. I'll send your ass. He's lucky I just slap his ass. Okay? Because ain't nobody should be acting that way. So that means he was raised by delusional parents in the city zoo. They raised a little bastard to think and so he's out here and he wants to make a fast dollar. You know what? I have more appreciation for a hooker and a drug dealer than I do a lazy bastard. I'd rather have a prostitute mow my lawn because at least I know she's willing to take risk than I would to have some crazy little shit like that show up in my lawn and his Sunday shoes. I wanted to rip that shit off of him, beat his ass down with a flip-flop. But, you think those things, but you don't really genuinely want to engage with people that way. So I'm sharing my inner thoughts. I didn't actually say all those things to that young man. But you could see the displeasure in my eyes because the color left my eyes. I was in disbelief that anybody could be that disrespectful to show up in my home like a ditzy little airhead. His future's tied. They'll either process his ass into prison because eventually he's going to realize the only way he's going to make money is by stealing because you ain't going to make no money in those Sunday shoes, son. And if you're hanging out on Craigslist, you already wrecked your fucking life. All right, moving on from there. Tay-Tay. Wondering, are we going to show us your cats? I was hoping to show you cats, guys, but they ain't showed up in the video. So they're being a little stubborn today, so maybe we'll catch them next video. Moonwitch 8, your knowledge is priceless. I've learned more stuff and how to. We're going to learn more. Y'all be taking this adventure with me as I retire. And I'm going to show you ground up from probably a 1 acre lot. You'll get to see the whole thing. And I'll still consult, part-time, just because I can, but I won't do casework. because it's my final mission. I want to know, personally, I want to know that what our ancestors did when they walked into this country and all the shit they went through to be Americans, right? I want to know if that's still possible. I think it is. I want to know what it's like to not pay out every nickel of money. I want to know what it's like to not be attached to 58 credit cards and to have every piece of all the peace and joy sucked out of your life. And for many of you that are low income, this is a point of absolution. The closer you're able to achieve what I'm talking about is the closer you're eventually going to reach a point where you're in full control. That's a weird thing for humans these days, to remain in full control. We're normally indentured. Most of us are just in the city plantation. You know, it seems comfortable. It's always comfortable until you ain't got money. What we're discussing here, when you ain't got money, you're doing just fine. Okay? You know why you're doing just fine? Because you don't own no water company. You don't own no power company. You don't own no landlord. And the chickens, as long as you got a good $20 in your 20 spot in your pocket, you feed them chickens, they'll keep feeding you. So when shit collapses in the big city, all your high pollutant life and your suburban mom and her $80,000 van to bring the chicklins around the town, when Bob can't work because he fell off the roof, their whole life gets destroyed. They have the homeless shelter have to call me. Folks talk about what we're talking today, going out to the country, getting an acre lot, eliminate electric, water, and all those other issues. When they run out of money, they ain't got a care in the damn world because they ain't running nothing. They own everything. Nobody controls them. The worst they got to do is survive the winter. So your mental health improves about 4,000%. Oh, I don't worry. If they take my Social Security, I don't need it anyways. I've got 28 deer. I can shoot one every day of the week. I'll never go hungry. I'll never pay anybody anything. Yeah, they'll cut my phone off for a while, but that's my biggest worry. $40. I'll go give some blood, turn the phone back on. You see the differences between lives in the city and off that grid? But yep, to do this, several years of investment, lots of hard labor and work. But look, we're all Americans. Most of us are pretty damn plump anyways. It wouldn't hurt your ass to get out there and throw a little corn to the chickens. Wouldn't hurt you to push a shovel occasionally, even if you're in the wheelchair. If it meant your freedom and your state of mind and to be able to die in peace, that's a solution. Everything else is delusion. So take that journey with me. We'll have a lot of laughs. We'll have a lot of tears, and my fat ass will probably have a lot of Tylenol. Okay. And I'm sure the cats will I'll have several mental breaks as they meow me to death. And they're not going to enjoy having extra. They don't do extra. They don't like visitors. I can't wait to see the look in their eye when there's chickens. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I've enjoyed talking with you, exploring all our fantasies together. But I'll be back in 48 hours. Hopefully we have something to talk about other than just chickens, shotguns, and one flip-flop hookers, you know. There's only so much we can do about that. All right, let me look back at these comments and make sure I addressed everybody today in our nice, good old-fashioned video. A man and my father left my siblings in a home. It's fully paid. Want to keep the house, but my siblings want to sell it. That's sad. What color is your trailer, by the way? I don't have a trailer yet. And if I do, it'll be a travel trailer. Because one thing about Homestead is, once I figure out how to mill wood, then I'll build that house. Now, when I say build that house, it means I'm really going to annoy the shit out of all my neighbors because I'm going to need to know how to learn. And we'll do little by little. We'll start with a small goal, a room. A room that contains a space big enough for the bathroom, the cats, me, you know. And then you keep adding. You know, my grandparents built their house ground up. Oh, there's a cat. I'll bet it's Bunny. Somebody blew through that door like a trucker. I have a cat door. We'll see if he comes over. They built that house all together. They used the wood on the land and the whole deal. And they didn't have no wood mill. Okay? There wasn't no handyman. Paul wasn't. And in fact, their entire family got together and helped expedite that process. That house is no longer here. but the houses survived to 110 years. 110 years. Of course, we didn't go get into a Home Depot wood. We're talking about logs. You weren't going to rot that house quickly. You're talking about it'd take generations. So we'll see how much. Even I have a limit of how much. We'll see. Government programs should be refunded through American-owned credit unions and audited 4 times a year. Well, I'll leave that to the government, because not only do they write the rules, and they're the ones that implement it and regulate it. It's like a big rig game, right? And when they decide that they don't want to show up for work, then we have a government shutdown. Karen knows, have a wonderful day. Thank you. Tay, good evening. Good day, everyone. Take notes. I did for sure. Oregon Awakened. Yep, when you're ready, the morning gets blown down, the whole town comes and puts it up. That's what I expected. Guys, let me give you one last piece of advice before I go. You pursue any part of what I discussed today in this video in terms of off-grid or living out in the country, your first goal isn't yourself. You need to know that the people in that town know that you're for real, that you're willing to respect them, their property, and their people. You don't go into somebody else's neighborhood and act like an asshole, okay? None of this works, and nobody's going to give a damn about you unless you're going to contribute to that community. And sitting in your house watching, eating bonbons and watching TV ain't contributing. So don't even bother doing none of this unless you can show the same level of respect and dignity within that community. And don't bring your self-entitlements out there, because nobody wants an uppity asshole in their town, okay? There are many places in this country, when you move out to somebody's town, it's a proving ground. And sometimes the people come out with guns and run you off. They don't want you there. They don't want your business. You go out there, you best act honest. Because people out there, they read between the lines. They might be simple folks in terms of how they live, but they're not stupid. And if you'll come out there and play games, they'll put you out their town, or they'll make it where it's impossible to do business out there. So you go out there, and the first goal that you have is, what can you contribute in that town and to its people, and remain respectful all the time. Listen to what people have to say. Take their advice. Don't go out there and be an asshole. Nobody wants a city slicker. Okay? Go out there and contribute. See how you can help people and earn your way into the village. No matter how small it is, it's still a village. You know, people know everybody. And that's okay to know everybody's business. That means everybody's operating honestly when you know everybody's business in a small town. It means you need to keep your shit above board. Don't bring your shitty problems out there. People just they believe in good, honest work, living properly, and they don't want none of that poison from the city out there, okay? So think about that before you go. If you can't act right, you got problems, then you buy you a tent and freak out in it, and then when you act improper, you unzip the tent, and then you go into town. All right, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. Let me get off of here and stop rambling, but that's what people want now. I'm living in a small town, so I know. All right, have a good day. We'll see you in 48 hours.